coming out. My name is John McConnell. I'm the planning manager. I work for the city of Westminster. And I just want to say a few opening statements before the meeting gets started. First, I want to acknowledge this is the applicant's. It's the applicant's opportunity to engage the community directly. It's your opportunity to ask questions, offer ideas, offer concerns to the applicant directly. The applicant's Cardell Homes. Everybody's familiar with the subject property. And you might remember me, I was at the meetings with Jeffco Public Schools in the community. I was there as to help out and to kind of talk about city processes. And I'll be filling that same role tonight. So I have myself here, I have a couple of staff members. We have our principal planner, Jacob Kaza, and our planner, Carson Byerkoff. All three of us will be here to answer any questions that you might have about city processes, where they are in the process, anything technical, rules, regulations, that sort of thing. Cardell Homes is required to process a total of 3 applications. The first is a comprehensive plan amendment. Currently, the comprehensive plan designates this property as public quasi-public. And that's a land use designation that allows for schools and churches and fire stations and police stations, and generally things that are public, including hospitals and medical facilities as well. So they want to change that to residential low density, which is the same land use designation as the surrounding neighborhood. And so I'm going to turn it over to Cardell Homes, and they're going to give you a presentation. After they're done with the presentation, they'll open the floor to Q&A, comment, and so we've got the room until 7 o'clock, and we can take the full amount of time. We'll all be here. And again, I'm going to take a back seat back there. Staff's going to be here to take notes. And again, if you have any sort of technical questions for us or process questions, we'll take those. And I should touch on where they are in the process. Some of the comments that I've already received tonight is this a done deal? And no, they're very early on in the process. The city code requires the applicant to hold a community engagement meeting after the first round of technical development review. Projects typically go 3, 4, sometimes 5 rounds of technical review. And so we've completed that first round of technical review, and this is where they have to hold the neighborhood meeting. And then after this neighborhood meeting is completed, we'll go and review a second submittal from them and subsequent submittals. So, any questions from me so far? Yes, ma'am.
So after this meeting, so this have to hold the meeting, but what does the city consider in terms of outcome from this meeting?
What we'd like to do is hear your thoughts, your concerns, your suggestions. The applicant may consider those suggestions and concerns in their overall development plan design. Staff's going to be taking notes too. If we hear something that's extremely important or critical to the neighborhood, we may work with the applicant to try to achieve that if it's possible.
So after May, what would be the steps to take to make it what is discussed here and what the neighbors feels about it more important to the city and the developer?
Well, the applicant would have to listen to you and choose to modify their plans to satisfy the concern, and the staff would support them in their efforts to do that.
So it's up to you and the staff instead of everybody else, right?
It's up to the applicant. We're going to make sure the applicant follows all the rules and regulations. If there's
The rules and
anything,
regulations is not like you say may, could, might, should, maybe.
So what she's saying is, does our opinion really matter that much?
Thank you.
I think it will, but I'll let the applicant engage your opinions and respond to your concerns. But again, the rules are shalls, and so the staff's going to make sure that all the shalls are met. I don't want to delay this meeting. I'm happy to take all the questions, but
This is a report question.
the sale has not. But I'm going to let the applicant respond to those kind of questions, if you don't mind. Yes or no?
Can we email the city to get a summary of results first technical reviews?
Absolutely, it's all public record. Carson Byerhoff, if you can work with you to get that information.
Oh, you're Carson?
Yes.
Is Cardell the only applicant?
Yes,
Get ready for
Cordell
paperwork.
is the applicant for this set of
I need
applications.
proof that I was here, and I handled
No,
it,
sir,
so it's all
there's no
documented.
other applicant.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
I highlighted some stuff.
All right, I'm gonna let
Thank you.
them do their presentation. We'll be here to answer.
Yeah, I want to make sure we don't miss anything.
Are you writing that? Hold on.
Yeah, first, my name
I'll
is
leave it
Jeff
right here.
Gilly. I'm not sure if you see, thanks guys.
Oh.
for coming tonight.
There's gonna be more as I go.
Kate, well, I'll be on the next slide as well. But yes, just want to thank you guys for coming tonight. We're here to listen, and we just want to kind of present our, our project to you and get your feedback. So have a quick agenda, and then I'll introduce our team real quick. Michelle Wood from Cardell Homes is over there. Travis Frazier from Redland is our engineer. Julie Gammett from THK, and Cassie Slade from Fox Tuttle, our traffic engineer. And again, my name is Jeff Keeley with JVC Consulting. I think you guys all know where the site is, but this is just an overall vicinity map of our project. And then I'll kind of touch on what John already said, and I kind of want to go back a little bit further. This was an RFP process with Jefferson County School District. There was an RFQ process, RFQ, which is a request for qualifications, an RFP process, which is a request for proposals. They did engage the residents around this site to kind of help them through that process of reviewing different qualifications of different applicants. And then they broke that down to three final applicants to submit their proposal. We were selected through that process. We did have a pre-application meeting with staff, and then we did have a concept plan review with City Council. And so we interpret their feedback and put it into our land plan and into our project. John already touched on it. It is a three-step process. Our first step is the comprehensive master plan amendment, which we're going through right now. This is one of the requirements for that first step. And then we will go to the preliminary development plan and then the official development plan, which will be the next two steps. We are only processing that first step right now, so we're not running them concurrently. We're going to get through the comprehensive master plan amendment first, and then we'll move forward. I'm going to pass it over to Michelle to kind of touch on Cardell Homes.
Yeah, so thank you guys for coming. I appreciate your time. I know this is a big emotional change that you guys are going through, and we do sympathize with that. What's that? What's that?
Just have a little,
Oh, okay, sorry. So I'm just here really to talk a little bit about Cardell Homes. I don't know if you're familiar with us, if you guys have been on our websites or seen our products. But we're a family-owned company. The benefit with that is with us coming into a community, we really do want to enhance lives and build communities. Families, lifelong. I know you guys have a lot of memories of that. We're not going to come in and totally do something that doesn't make sense in the community. We want to blend in with your community, blend in with your thoughts, and blend in with your families and what you're used to have, within the guidelines that we have to be. So, family homes since 1973. We're in Canada, Florida, and Colorado. Time in Denver, about 20 years. And these are just some of the communities we're currently building in. If you guys have time and would like to go see any of our product, we're building out at Deer Creek, which is like the King Carroll area. Three Hills is Quincy and 470, which that one I would highly encourage you guys to go to. Maybe not at the same time, because for salespeople out here is all show up, but it is going to be similar product if we go forward with this is the Three Hills product. But then we've got pictures of some of that as well.
you said Deer Creek between Quincy and 470?
No, Deer Creek is Ken Carl.
I know where Deer Creek's
Oh,
at.
sorry, yeah, Three
That's
Hills.
a canyon. That's why I'm asking the question.
Deer Creek is the name of the community.
Well, that's what the name of the
Yeah,
community is.
correct.
It's not going to be Deer
Yes.
Creek Canyon in that area.
Correct, yes.
That's just the name of the
Creative marketing. Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, good question.
Very good start, but
Yeah. And then one thing that we're very proud of as well is just enhancing lives and building communities is we really do a lot of foundation support. One thing, for example, the Jefferson County Schools that we've done a few times is for underprivileged kids, we've supplied backpacks tied on with the Backpack Foundation that just gives one per family. We go back to those families who maybe have 2 or 3 kids and make sure that every kid in that family has a backpack. That's just one of their very small minimal things that we do, but we're very big on with that. Design, all of our houses are in-house architects, so we really get to work and control a lot more what that looks like. And we do spend time driving around and really getting to know your neighborhood. And we want to blend. We don't want to come in and build these 6-story townhomes that aren't going to blend in with your community with it. So just a little bit about Cardell Homes. And then the next slides here will show you, these are the Three Hills product. Can't guarantee it's going to be exactly this because we do have guidelines that we have to build in within, but this is just a kind of an idea of the plans that we would want to build out from. And I think the next one is like a streetscape of those that we have, our sales center, and then just a streetscape that we have. So that's Cardell Homes in a nutshell.
Would it be required that you have to build that close together?
Hey, can we hold the questions till the end, and so we just get through our presentation and we can answer any questions you guys have?
So I just wanted to talk a little bit about the preliminary development plans. So these plans were put in the city, I think the date on them is like 1978. So this has been sort of a long-standing development vision for the community. And as you can see here, you know, here's the site, and it was originally envisioned as an elementary school. But what I wanted to really point out with these original documents is that the single-family residential was envisioned at the 4.1 DU per acre, even way back then, and that we are going to stay underneath that number, both because it's what we think is the right thing to do and because it does blend better with the existing community.
Explain that again, what you said about the number.
Sure. So let me back up kind of big picture just because sometimes I don't remember that everyone doesn't have a planning background. So density is based on the number of units per acre. It's called DU per acre. And that's basically just a math equation. And so here you'll see that the single family housing originally envisioned for the development was 4.1 DU per acre. And we'll show you here in just a second that our plan is at 4.0 DU per acre. So we are in line with what was originally envisioned for the community. And as John mentioned, what the surrounding community is currently at as far as density is concerned. Does that make sense? Yeah. So this is a land plan we wanted to come with you to show you guys tonight. And like many of us have already said, you know, we do want to hear your input. We're glad that you're here, that you have an interest in how the community looks. And certainly it is a big change and it does impact your life. So, and you guys are the ones who live there and are there every day and see it every day and are going to live with it every day. So currently we're showing 40 units. At 40 units, we're at 4.0 DU per acre. So again, we're in line with the surrounding. We have made some efforts to keep some of the existing big trees at the elementary school entrance. We recognize that, you know, big trees, well, they can always be replaced. They can feel the same. So we wanted to keep that. We've made an effort to kind of condense our development towards the middle of the site so that we can expand, I shouldn't say that, I shouldn't use that word, so that the parkland that we want to provide can be incorporated into the existing park and the community on the whole can use it as opposed to putting it in the interior and kind of cutting it off from the larger community. So a couple other things, you know, we'll provide walking paths, we'll tie into the existing paths that are in the park. We're keeping all of the driveways off of Field Street, so you won't have people backing out. We're lining up with existing intersections, so it won't be some weird configuration where you have a road and then 2 houses and then a road on the other side where they get kind of confusing. So this concept is actually, I think, our 3rd round of concept design. Partially it's based on input from the design team, input from Cardell, and as it was mentioned earlier, we did have a concept review with the city, and so we tried to incorporate some of the things that the city has heard from residents on the whole in other communities as, you know, what was important. So again, this really, we want to hear what you guys have to say. And this slide will be back up at the end of the presentation, so don't feel like you have to memorize it. I'm going to turn it over to Travis.
Thank you guys. Just want to touch base on a few kind of high-level engineering components associated with this project. And the first one is drainage. Anytime we go into a community like this or development like this, We are required to provide stormwater detention and water quality on site. So that's what you're seeing kind of in that upper corner there with the red star. That's where we're proposing a stormwater facility that would capture and treat all the stormwater runoff from the community in order to mitigate any downstream impacts to the infrastructure. And then our internal road cross section. So we are proposing that all the roads that you saw on that site plan are public right of way, and they're going to be built to the local street sections per Westminster's code. So you can see we have a 30-foot pavement section and then detached 5-foot sidewalks on either side. And then lastly, this is a request that kind of came up during some of our meetings with city staff and public works, and they're requesting that we, when we come in and do our project, that we actually upgrade the water main in 91st Field there, and that's going to be a big improvement because it's going to ensure that that water main is more stable and can serve not only our site but the rest of the community.
Technical problems.
Yeah.
It only doesn't work when you need it to.
Sorry about that. So I kind of want to go and touch on why the school district is selling this site. They're severely under-enrolled in the school district. I think I saw a number, they have capacity for 60,000 students, and they're currently enrolled around 40,000 students. So that is one of the main reasons why they're selling these sites. Additionally, the school is in poor condition. They just can't fix it up enough to really get students back in there, and truthfully, there's not enough students there to enroll back into that school. So all this information was provided to me through the school district, and we've had some questions of where will our students go, and how many students are you going to generate? So from our 40 homes, we'll generate about 16 students. Weber Elementary is the elementary school that they will go into. They have a capacity of 501 students. They're currently enrolled at 261, so there's plenty of capacity there. And same with the junior and senior high school. Capacity of 1,900 students, and they have an enrollment around 1,300. So there's plenty of room for schools to go in. Our students go to the schools. We had a few other questions about what will my home valuation do? So we commissioned a study with THK. They have a separate side of their business. They look at 3 very similar projects around the Denver metro area, and in no case did home values go down. In every case they went up. And I wanted to show you a quick analysis. If your home value goes up by $50,000 in your neighborhood, your property tax bill goes up by $128 a year. So, pretty good incremental value gain for a minor payment of your property tax. And lastly, I know traffic is always a concern. So we haven't done our full-blown traffic study yet, but we did pull some numbers from I think ITA. We have Cassie here to talk technical numbers with you, but ITA is an international guidelines they use. So for our 40 homes, we will generate around 360 daily trips in our community. The existing elementary school, if it was occupied with students, that would generate about 661 daily trips. And then I've heard some comments about the recreation center or library. You're getting up there pretty high. So 1,200 daily trips for a rec center and 1,300 trips for a library. So I think it's a good option for that side. That kind of concludes our presentation, and we'll open up to questions.
So I'm gonna, sorry, just so you guys know, I'll kind of catch hands as they go up and keep us in order. So just be patient with us and we'll answer first here in the black, and then we go in here, and then we have one here, and then we're in the back.
Okay, perfect.
Go ahead.
Oh, I have a few questions. I want to know what the water pressure is going to be. You talked about the drainage and stuff like that, but you didn't talk about the water pressure.
Yep, so kind of the next phases of this project is we do have to do utility studies that study not only the sanitary sewer system, but also the water system. So we will, go and measure the existing pressures out there, and then we will model any of our improvements. But in general, from my experience, the water pressure is not going to be impacted because we're going to loop our water lines through this community. So it's going to increase the flow and increase the water to move through the system, plus our improvement to the water main that's occurring at the city's request. But all that gets vetted out during the technical process. And if we go through our analysis and we see, hey, we're dropping below a certain pressure, we're creating negative impacts, then we, the team, have to decide, okay, how do we mitigate that? Do we make our water mains bigger? Do we upsize the water main in the street? That all is part of this, kind of the next engineering steps that happen.
And that also goes with the electricity too, so up the electricity so we don't have blackouts every time we turn around.
Yeah, so we work with the dry utility providers for gas and electricity, and they provide capacity checks to ensure that basically there's enough capacity in the existing system. And if we have to improve anything outside of our development to maintain the existing capacity, that becomes our responsibility.
Okay, two more and I'm done. You talk about the traffic and stuff like that we stopped to realize that we have no traffic there on the weekends, and we're gonna improve the traffic tremendously on weekends.
Yeah.
So, it's all, when we had the school, it was only 5 days, and the weekends, we didn't have the traffic in the neighborhood.
Yeah,
And
understood.
People drive like crazy, and if you're gonna bring a lot of kids in the neighborhood, you're looking at a lot of traffic and a lot of traumas, I think.
And so that'll be a technical review question with the staff and with, our expert over here. If they require us to do something to mitigate that speed, we'll do that. But we're just not to that point yet in this process.
Okay, and you're not gonna be at this next point, but if you guys get approved and you start building, are you going to fix everybody's tires who gets flat tires going through that area? Because I'm gonna tell you that, you're gonna get nothing but flat tires with construction in the area.
That's something we will talk with our contractors very
You
severely.
can talk to them all you want, but they're workers, I mean, be honest.
I hear you, yeah.
Nobody cares, and if it drops off the truck, big deal.
Yeah.
And who has to pay to get their tires fixed? The person who's driving the car.
Understood.
And you say our taxes are gonna go up $128?
I'm not saying that.
Well,
I'm not saying that.
okay, but that's what your study shows?
No,
But you
that's
stop-
just an example.
But
that I
you
showed.
stop to realize, there's a lot of senior citizens in that neighborhood, and they can't afford their taxes to go up.
And I would say they're already going up. They've gone up the last 10 years.
And we recognize that there is two sides of that coin. The people who stay and pay the taxes and the people who sell and get the equity. So we recognize that there are two sides of that coin.
Well, yeah, I'm not very happy with the traffic in the neighborhood, I'll tell you that.
Ma'am?
We have a picture that shows the park, where the skate park and the tennis courts
Yeah,
are
it's-
in relation to this.
it's right
How
here.
much of the land?
They're down
I'm sorry.
here.
Yeah, that park is not going away.
Yeah, we're not touching the.
We're just expanding that park into our
I
site.
just wanted to see how much was going away.
Nothing is going away. We're not taking any of the land of the park away.
We're taking open space that is on the school land
I
away.
understand that, but visually, I don't see what I don't.
Let me catch you after the meeting and I can get your name and email and then I can send you anything you need to see.
Thank you.
Yeah. And then I had a hand over here early. I think it was the gal in the gray sweatshirt.
Okay, thank you. So I've been looking y'all up for just a few minutes now, and I'm just like looking for a little bit more details about like your faulty construction lawsuits that ended up happening back in 2017.
I'll get your name and number.
Oh, so you don't want to say it to the crowd?
Yeah.
Okay.
We want to hear it.
All right, it's a attached product, condominium product that every other builder in Denver has.
I couldn't hear you.
It's attached product and There's,
Excuse me,
Condominium.
we're having a real hard time hearing any of you folks,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You're just not there.
Should have had a microphone.
Let me see if I can correct that.
So what Michelle was saying is that it was a condo product, and it's the same lawsuit that every builder's
Am I the
going
next
through.
question?
Like,
Yes, you are.
All the condos.
Excuse me.
Situations like that.
Well, even anecdotally though, I am also reading from individuals who bought houses from y'all, that it takes up to like 7 to 8 months
I
for
just
y'all
want
to
to make
even
sure
fix
everything,
anything for
every
them.
question.
Due to the faulty construction.
And I have not experienced that. I've been with the company for years. and we-
Can you talk as loud as you possibly can?
Yeah, I have not experienced that with me, and I'm very involved with the main office and everything. So I don't know if that's a local level that you're reading that or somewhere else that I'm unaware of, but I can't speak to that.
Just a general national rating of 2.5 stars out of 5.
I can't speak to that from a national level. I can say that our repeat buyers are about 90%. We have a lot of repeat buyers.
Let's get creative with our questions.
I have a question.
Can you wait 1 second after, I'm actually number 4 here.
Hey, Gary.
Our presentation. No, these are questions. Okay. Yeah, I have a survey that I did that you're, okay. Go. Okay, most of you know me, I probably delivered some stuff to you, and I've been in communication for almost a year now. First off, my first question is upon your finding to amend low-density housing for the city of Westminster, knowing that the property is owned up in Quonset. You kind of spoke about that. The school, church, or cemetery.
Gary, do you want to take the microphone?
Oh, I'd love to.
Thank you.
That way everybody can hear. Okay, so for my research, we all know that the service of this school has many memories for us in the neighborhood. So now for my question, when you first mailed notifications to 1,500 addresses, the first thing we did as residents, 10-day notice with the notice on the property for the city guidelines, I sent a certified letter to Cardell down south there, and that's on record. And we mentioned in that letter specifically, we do not want homes. Then I delivered approximately 500 flyers by walking to each of your homes. So that's a lot of you guys here. So I appreciate your responses. So please note, many of us actions by email sent to the city officials as responded to John McConnell, he's here, planning manager, and at the point it was Amy Johnson. We sent in about 100 thereabouts. I think John can confirm that. Just want to put it on record again. So my question is, a yes or no? On record, Jeff Healy, are you aware of our concerns as noted that we are not wanting homes of any kind built there? You can save all these to the end.
No, we'll address that. I've gotten supportive emails as well, Gary, so.
Okay.
Yes, but we've had.
Hundreds, 460 people? Okay.
I haven't seen 160.
400.
400.
460.
Okay, well, I've sent you the survey many times.
97% of people don't want it.
Hold on, let me finish. We've got to get through all these questions. So my question, have you looked at the response and reviewed the questions pertaining to the survey? That's a yes or no. Last question, yes or no. Did John and Amy let operations know that many emails within the first days showed up in their mailboxes? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read each one of these.
Gary, if I could, and I want to be respectful of everybody in the room, and maybe you do speak for the majority. You can certainly raise your hand if you want. I just want to make sure that everyone has an opportunity.
How many people want me to continue?
I do.
We do.
Okay, thank you. I think you did veto.
How many people don't want to be continued?
I think it's
All right,
about
there we go.
50-50. So let's do this. I will give you 5 minutes, and we'll get as far as we can, and we'll open it back up to the group, and we'll come back.
Okay.
Okay.
Process is about talking to Cornell about what they're doing on the project.
Yeah, I don't know why he's like that.
Yeah.
Maybe if you could talk to the city council on that, things that you're bringing.
These are all questions.
All right. Miss.
Questions. One is, how did you come up with that there would only be 24 students per house?
That was provided to us from the school district. That's how they calculate their students in the school district.
Did they do it by all of the data they already have from how many homes there are versus how many students per household? That's how they get their calculations. It's not.
Miss? Oh, sorry, go
I
ahead.
have some questions. One is, the property that you showed, Three Hills, and that doesn't look like our neighborhood. Those houses are really.
Here's a question, so I was supposed to be here.
And just, one of the reasons I bought in the neighborhood is that, the homes are a little further apart, and it just is an overlapping look. And just the homes that much closer together,
There's no questions
I
after
find
mine.
it stressful just to see. And it also changes the number of cars parked on the street, things like that. It affects quality quite a bit. I'm coming to complain to the size.
So let me take a stab at it, and Cardell or anyone, please jump in. Sorry, I always think I have such a loud voice, so. So to the question on why are the homes so close together, to some extent it is, like you say, not really mirroring what's in the neighborhood existing, but it is what the market demand is. So part of the thinking and part of what Cardell does really well is they take these infill sites and they provide a slightly different product on oftentimes a very small lot, which allows people, for instance, maybe there's a single person who wants to stay in the neighborhood but travels for work and doesn't want to maintain a lawn. Or there's an older person who doesn't want to maintain a lawn anymore but wants to stay in their neighborhood. It just provides another type of living option in the neighborhood that people want to be in. So yes, I hear what you're saying. The flip side to that is you make the lots wider, and now in this instance, you could potentially lose parkland. You could potentially have to take on more trees. So our proposal is to provide that somewhat different product so that people have the opportunity to stay in the neighborhood that they love. I'll come back to it.
So my question is about the water main. So you said that the city has asked you guys to replace it. Are you paying for it, or are we paying for it in our taxes?
That will be our responsibility as the developer. So
Okay,
we will be paying for
So the added
the improvement.
infrastructure, you're gonna do electric, gas,
That's all on us,
water.
yeah.
You guys are baking that into your cake, and it's not gonna get passed on as like a special assessment, like tax-wise.
No, absolutely not.
No, any improvements to support this community has to come, at the expense of our project, right?
Okay. My second question is about the process of like how long this is gonna take. So obviously the school still exists, it's still there. You guys have to demo it, you have to grade the land, you have to site prep, you have to put in the infrastructure. All the while, we're all living there with mud flowing through our streets and nails getting in our car tires. So from start to finish, meaning you demo the school to we sold the last house, what realistically does that look like? And
So-
I want a real answer.
Yeah, no, I'll give you a real answer. So I think we still have about 12 to 18 months of entitlements left to go, right? We still have to do our PDP.
Yeah, sorry. We still have about 12 to 18 months of entitlements, which is the PDP and the ODP. So
The paperwork.
the paperwork, the technicalities, the civil engineering, all that kind of stuff. From that point, I think it will take us about 9 months to develop the site. So that's tearing down the school, that's putting in the infrastructure. And then I think we can easily sell 6 to 8 homes, maybe even more, 10 to 12 homes a year. So that's about 3.5 years. So all in, 5-ish years.
5 years. So are you going to sell them? Like, are you going to build? Hold on, I'm trying to think how I'm going to say this. Are you going to sell them before they're built, or are you going to sell them once they're built?
Cardell usually builds after they've sold the home.
So they could.
There'll be a model up,
sitting
yeah,
for a
there'll be a
long
model
time.
up, and then they'll sell lots as they sell the house, correct?
Do y'all have an in-house lender? Do y'all do all that in-house?
We have a partnership. Okay. Yeah, not in-house, but somebody, okay.
Sir, back here.
That could take a lot longer.
Yes.
Yeah, I have a question about the density calculation. I saw a number on one of the earlier slides that was showing 4.95, and I've kind of run some numbers as well. You also talked about the surrounding neighborhood being zoned at 4.1 units per acre. I saw that there's a 4.95 in there. The existing lots in the surrounding neighborhood are roughly 60 feet by 100 feet. These lots, from what I could see, are 40 by 100, so they're significantly smaller. And I understand you're talking about the open space and the park space. Is that amount of park space that you're talking about being mandated by the city contingent on this? Would you have to have that anyway? Or what's the thinking behind, because I think you're actually at 4.9.
Yeah,
and not
that,
the
yeah,
4.9.
we're at 4.9.
I'm sorry, that was I misspoke.
We're
So
in the
thank you.
vicinity of the 4.1. We're below the 12 dwelling units per acre, which is just south of this site, right?
Yeah, but that's not conforming with the neighborhood.
But it is conforming because it was one master plan, right? It is conforming because it is part of that plan.
How can it be conforming if the plan is 4.1 and you're doing 4.1?
So this whole plan, the Kings Mill PUD, right? This was the whole plan of the previous developer who did this back in the 70s.
I guess you're taking the dense part of it and you're adding it into the equation where on three sides of this and the other side is park, you're in that lower 4.1.
We're slightly above the 4.1, right?
You're almost a whole unit.
Yeah, I hear you. The open space parkland was mandated by code by the city of Westminster.
So that doesn't really affect the lot size, correct? The
No,
lot size is being determined by you and the density.
Not us, we're following code under the residential low density, which is allowed under that code.
I think it was you next, sir.
Yeah, I have many questions, but I have one big question. We all overlook. This is for Carter Holmes and you, Mr. Jeff. You know, not too far from us, Rocky Pass. There's plutonium there. And there's still a study going on by checking the plutonium levels in the area. By digging up the houses, foundations in the street, and the water main, aren't you going to disturb that land? Have you thought about disclosing to the buyers that there may be plutonium in the land?
I don't know if there's plutonium in the land or not.
Why
It's
not?
something that
Why not?
we'll test. We'll test the dirt when we move it. But I did reach out to the original author of the memo that was delivered to the city of Westminster, and she reviewed our site, and this is kind of what she said.
Who is she?
Her name is, oh gosh, I can't remember her name. I should have put it on there. Hydros Consulting was the firm that presented that memo to City of Westminster.
Listen, everybody here, most majority of people here are voting against it. Why are you going forward? What's the proper zoning of the property?
Unfortunately, the school district can't use this building anymore.
Yes,
So,
they can.
no, they cannot.
Yeah, because you know what, demographics have changed. When younger people have children and you have to build another school, it's costing $30–40 million.
So for
That
them,
building there is a very good building.
so for them to fix it up, it's gonna cost them $20 to $30 million.
No.
It's in pretty bad shape.
It's not, there was just a school in there a year ago.
I have an email from the school district yesterday.
And they're
Said
trying to
it's in
sell
poor
it.
condition, they can't use
They're
it.
trying to sell it to you.
Pardon?
They're trying to sell that property.
They're trying to what?
Trying to sell you that property.
Of course, they need revenue to reinvest back into their school district.
So they give up a $1.8 million lot, which is a steal anyways. And they have to build $30–40 million elementary school, they have to bus kids to 8 kids miles away.
Ma'am, and then we're gonna go to you, sir, and then
Oh,
we'll
wait
go
a
back.
minute, not to ignore me. That's a purposely ignored me. You should be ashamed of yourself.
I feel like
You should be
there's a room
ashamed.
full of people that all have questions, and
I have
think-
questions too,
And
and you
we'll
know,
come
it
back
hasn't
around.
been answered. Hasn't
We'll
been
come back
answered.
around.
What about the building? Are you gonna disclose to the buyers about that?
Absolutely. The Rocky Flats is just around the corner, so I think everyone's aware that that's in it. There.
So I think, Jeff, maybe you should read the highlighted sentence that you put there from.
Yeah, so this is from Hydros. It's further based on information provided in the 2014 memorandum. There will be no expectation of subsurface soil contamination, groundwater contamination, or surface water contamination in Rocky Flats at the planned construction site.
Then why was there also an article detailing the fact by Dr. Michael Kittner on April 6, 1990?
So I don't know who that is.
You're going to go back and find what you want to find.
Could you send us that article so we can see it?
Sure.
That would be great.
And I think to Jeff's point, the next phase of this project includes geotechnical studies, environmental studies, all, I touched on this, the engineering technical details, right? So we do have to go test the soil.
You never asked my question. What's some of the content?
What is it?
The zone.
Zoning.
Public, quasi-public.
That's what we use for public?
That is what the
Forty
zone,
homes is
the current zoning allows for quasi-public and public uses. We are, part of this process is to rezone it to that low-density residential. I do see that, thank you for, thank you. Can I move on?
Yes, someone else a question?
Go ahead now.
Okay, so mine has somewhat to do with that, but more to do with when you actually get in there and you are going to start taking Zerger apart. I'm going to assume that you are going to have the school go in, plus the companies go in, and remove as much as can possibly be used, correct? And
I'm
I'm
talking about the stuff.
the actual building.
I think it's
the actual
important.
building, yes.
Any material inside, yes, we will open up the doors for anyone to take it.
I'm also going to make the assumption, having dealt with this with Sheridan Green Elementary School, which has been shut down as well, that the bricks are going to be too old to repurpose the bricks, and that will become a demolishing of it. Will the neighborhood be notified as to how you are going to do the demolishing to keep down the dust so that we know to keep our windows closed, keep our AC off, so that all that debris in the air that is now going to become in the air
Since he
does
brought
not
that
come
up,
into our homes for those of us that
This
have
is
asthma
objectively
and health issues.
wrong calculated.
I will leave it to the demo
Findings
experts
1, 2,
how
3,
they want to
4
take the building down, but
indicate
you would absolutely
467
notify you
homes
guys.
built under these guidelines.
Sir?
Understand?
I went to the community on Quebec, 2470, and looked at those homes. And just the height of those homes seem a lot taller in Kingsville and Sandy Lake, particularly the homes to the east of the site, and then the west when you get into Sandy Lake, the homes are a little bit larger, a little bit taller. But just looking at those homes, they seem to be taller.
I think the top of those homes are 28 feet.
Okay.
So I don't recall what the height max is under this designation, but I think it's well below. John, do you recall?
It's approximately 2 stories or the height equivalent, but it's all negotiable.
Yep.
And so our goal would be to work with this applicant to make sure that it's within similar heights to the neighborhood, understanding that some houses in the neighborhood may be 1 story, but the neighborhood, it does have a height maximum that some houses meet and some houses don't. So, yeah.
Ma'am?
So a couple of questions. Is this a done deal?
No, ma'am, this is our first.
Okay. So I would just like to make a couple of comments. I've worked corporate for 40 years. No offense against Cardell. I do recognize the dog and pony show. I would highly recommend that Westminster City Council look at possibly turning this into a park instead of having more homes and more people and more construction and all of this. And that's basically my comment. Thank you.
Yeah. I appreciate it. Oh, nice.
Your hand up.
Yeah, so I guess you guys want to purchase a home before doing any subsurface soil testing? It seems like.
We've done some testing and it came back clean.
Or radioactive.
We did not test for that, but we did a phase 1 environmental. Yeah, we can do, we can go out and do that if you.
I would like to
Yeah.
see Westminster.
You know that
require
Laura's
that
closed.
for allowing this.
Yeah, absolutely, but that's something, like, obviously if it's high
Either
levels,
we change the zoning now,
we can test
After
that.
construction
Or none at all.
begins, nobody's going to be testing for the air quality. And that's what you're worried about. You're worried about
That's what I'm going to present to the city council. But I also have all the financial
the elderly,
investment.
people that are pregnant and young children. But you have a park right next door already. And so I guarantee, unless we require it beforehand or Westminster requires it, they will not be doing air testing for radioactive particles during construction.
Well, and I also think Karen John Zerger may need to invest a year too, because there's asbestos in their walls at Zerger.
There is asbestos, I'll tell you, there is asbestos in that building, and we will remediate before we tear down the building. That is a requirement by, I think it's in the national.
Are you going to give them this
Sir, in
better?
the back of that black ball cap
Yeah, I'll
and
give 'em.
beard,
That's what I said.
You guys aren't prepared for Stanley, or the plutonium? I am.
thank you.
Thank you. Now, this study here, and this binder here, is on a property that you guys are developing called Westminster Station. There's 115 chemicals on that property over there that it's a super fun cleanup site, just like Rocky Flats. There are 777 tons dumped into that ground in the atmosphere over there. And I've called on some of those houses over there to ask if there's a disclosure statement when those houses are sold. I called the realtors. No, there's no disclosure statement, so I don't feel like you guys are being honest about disclosing things. And as far as the Rocky Flats is concerned, here's a map.
Sir, will you take the mics to the room pit here? Thank you.
Sorry about that. Here's a map of when Rocky Flats was out west of town there. Here is Stanley Lake. Right here is Rocky Flats. Right over here on this side over here, in this green area, this is where the school is and where most of your people live. So basically, all the ground is polluted from Wadsworth, all the way to Rocky Flats, all the way down to 72nd on the south side, and then up almost to Broomfield.
Sir, may I keep that map?
Sure,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
You can also have the letter from
Oh, that would be great.
So at any rate,
Oh, perfect. Thank you.
I can give this to you also, because there's been many studies done on Rocky Flats. And so a lot of these properties, the federal government came in and settled with people that had been living over there and their property was contaminated. And the federal government paid people because their property's contaminated, which is all around that property that we're talking about in the school. So when someone says that you don't have plutonium over there, they're lying to you, because I got the studies, I got the paperwork, I got books. Anything you guys want to know about it, you ask me about it, I'll tell you, and I'll pass the information along to you.
So what I'm hearing is that we need to do some testing and make sure we know what is or isn't there, and that we need to make sure that when we know what is or isn't there, that we're disclosing it. That's what I'm hearing the concern is.
It's
Aerosolize
like,
it if it is.
Fair.
Don't put that risk.
Yep, yep.
well,
Is there another question?
well, another part of it is that you got a perfectly good school there. A lot of these people's kids went there. Life cycles roll over.
Sure.
So maybe there's not need for schools or school for the kids right now, but in the near future, there's going to be a bunch of young people move in. They're going to have kids, and then there's going to be a need for the school. So that's what I just want to bring forward to everybody and make sure everybody knows what you're living around. Thank you.
Thank you. The sunglasses.
So you guys showed us like, what, 40 homes? Is there a chance that you change your mind and it becomes 60 homes or like a slower level of density? I mean, is this like the max amount you can build?
40 is the max amount we can build, yes.
And there's literally no chance of that changing?
No, there is not. Under the residential low density, we max out at 40, and we're not trying to get medium density. So we're going in for residential low density in the 40 homes.
So at that size and the lot size, how big are these houses?
They're going to be
Square footage,
roughly,
bedrooms, baths, are you building any ranches,
Basements.
basements?
Without a basement, then it's not used to this public speaking place. They're roughly around 2,200 to 2,400 square feet without basements. They will come with basements with the option to finish that space.
What's the lot size?
40 by 100 is what we're showing.
So 40 wide.
4,000.
Yeah, thank you for,
And those homes along the fields, they face in?
they face
Facing
in,
in.
yep. Gary?
Okay, I got a really good question. I actually did a core report, and I have the contract actually submitted by Mary Parker, signed by, on both Allendale and Zerger. So the noted fact is that there's 40 homes at $45,000 per, which comes out to 1.8 million, correct? But also in that contract, I saw that there's a minimum requirement for you to purchase it, but you still have an existing purchase right. If you go down to 28, it comes out to $1,260,000. So if you're gonna sit there and tell us, well, we want 40, and then I think she just asked, but you didn't offer that. The number is number 28, is what's on the contract for them to get $1,260,000. That's Jefferson County School District. That's point in fact. I just want to make sure that this is noted, because a lot of people don't know that you don't own the property right now, number one, and the purchase price needs to be disclosed, because I'm sure there's a bunch of us here that don't see that value, that number proceeding forward, building any homes in our home place. Our homes are there.
Miss?
I have questions that all the houses are going to face in, so there won't be driveways on field, great.
Should offer
But
more.
what will be the look? Like, what, is it, each individual home has their own fence, put in a brick wall? What are you thinking about the finish that the neighborhood will face?
That will be to code, and I don't know what the fence requirements are off the top of my head.
My related question is.
We're not going to put up a brick wall, I'll say that.
It's probably more for the city. The city has had other developments fail, and so is there going to be any guarantee to finish? Or, is this going to, potentially, if the market really tanks or something, that you can't sell enough homes, and they're just going to lie there unfinished, just like, they just raised a partially developed property at 104th and Sheridan.
I think that goes back to kind of Cardell's strategy of how they build homes. They want to have a buyer in hand before they go out and build
Right,
a
that's
house.
hard,
Right.
and I understand that's smart, but also, does it mean that the neighborhood could go unfinished and we've lost park space because of what has been done to the property, and it's going to just be an eyesore, that there's no homes on it, but it's also not the lovely space.
Understood, yeah, and I think that goes back to the development agreement that we will negotiate with the city.
So that's not been done yet?
No, that's not, that's probably 12 months away.
Earlier, you mentioned that the existing Zerger building has asbestos. So you have done a study on that. Where is that study? Can we see that? Because we need to know if that is approved.
I don't know if we submitted that to we have the study. All the asbestos material is inside the school, not outside.
Based on.
I think in the next submittal, we'll have to submit our geotech and our phase 1 environmental, which will have all that information in it.
So if that is not the case and the building is still intact, then that building can be turned into a library to have a flourishing community near where we live. And instead of having more houses there.
Sure, it could, but I want to remind you that the library generates a lot more traffic than our 40 homes would.
And I have a follow-up comment on that, because it's a community library. People that live there can actually walk there or bike there.
But also
They don't
people,
need a car.
yeah, but also people from outside the community will drive into that library.
I would like to give this, I did a study on that buildings can be turned into libraries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Just a question on, oh yeah, sales price. So obviously when you're projecting the market, whenever your first build is done, what do you like ranging sales prices to be?
So we're still working on exact pricing. So Sorry. We're still working on the pricing. all the development land and the pricing and the product material, we'll still have to bid that out and work on it. Our goal is to be similar to what our Three Hills product is, and those are finishing, base price around 800, finishing between 850 is what we're targeting for those with it, so.
No. Sir, in the back of the blue jacket.
Yeah, I was considering trying to sell my home in the next like 1 to 2 years. I was curious if you guys think that will be challenging with the construction going on. And, you know, what a buyer would think about that.
I don't know, I think that's kind of two sides of that story, right? If the market's good, I think you'll have no problem selling your house, right? But no, I don't, we're gonna contain our construction development on the site, so hopefully we will hold our contractors to not dirty up Steel Street or any surrounding other streets to, create the traffic jam.
Okay, so I'm gonna do the lady in the white sweater, the lady in the purple sweatshirt, then here, and then you. So just so you know where I'm seeing hands. Go ahead.
I had a couple questions. One, you're talking about the increased traffic, and there's going to be 2 exits and entrances onto the proposed site. Are you going to have a traffic light there or a stop sign? What are you going to have, especially at the south, with the southeast quadrant there, or the southwest quadrant? Because a lot of people walk across there to go on that open space, so, and there's also a little hill, so visibility might be poor.
Yeah,
So what is the plan and how is that decided?
I'm really loud.
Who pays for that? The city or?
Yeah, no, great question. So the amount of traffic that will be there, how traffic studies work is we look at what the peak hours are, so when the peak commuting time would be. And then we assign them those trips to the accesses, and then we haven't done the full analysis yet, we are at that stage. But just the preliminary numbers, it would not warrant a signal. There are national guidelines that you have to meet to install a signal, because a signal can be just as dangerous if it's installed and not warranted as if it's not installed when it is warranted. And so we have to be very careful with our traffic control. So there will be a stop sign then on our side, on our accesses. I don't anticipate that we'll put stop signs on fields, but we could look into those things as we get deeper. If there is, I know someone else mentioned speeding and some other issues, and so we'll definitely take a look at that. And then paying wise, any stop signs, any signage that goes with the property, the development will pay for those.
The entrance, the southern entrance that goes onto Field Street, would you have a no left turn so you cannot go south on that, cutting across traffic? And then just have them continue north? Or are they going to be able to turn a left or a right?
It's going to be a full movement, so everyone will be able to take a left and right in all directions.
Because that might be tricky with that little.
Well, to her point, we do have to look at the visibility, so we look at not only the horizontal sight distance, but the making sure that drivers at that intersection can look and see a car coming, and we do the math based upon speeds and how that all works together. So if we don't feel that that's a safe movement or it can't be done, we either will have to move our intersection or come up with mitigation, and that's all part of, like we said, the next steps, the detailed engineering of this.
And then I have another question. You're talking about park space on there. Who's going to maintain that park space, in 5 years from now or whatever, when, say, everything's sold and everything? Does the community have an HOA then that maintains that?
Do you want to answer that one?
That's still in the works. Generally speaking, Cardell has a HOA, which would do the maintenance of that. So that's
Are you going
generally.
to change the elevation? Because right now it's a pretty steep incline from the school to the southern part of that section. Are you going to be smoothing that out, so it's, grading it down so it's a lot flatter, or are you going to keep that relatively steep incline there?
Can we walk on the path?
No, yeah, that's a public, it's going to be open, it's going to feel like part of the park.
Yeah.
It'll be maintained. We just haven't figured out all of the methodology yet.
It's a public land dedication, so we'll be dedicating it to the City of Westminster Parks Department, I believe. And, will you guys maintain that, or?
Yes, I can speak.
We haven't got to this point.
So recognizing we haven't done a technical review, but I think they are proposing to dedicate some public property. The city code does require public land dedication. That's a physical land dedication based on the projected population. So the projected population may require them to dedicate something like what they're showing here. They would dedicate this fully improved, and then the city would maintain it moving forward. They're also required to do something like that up there, a private park, And of course, there's stormwater detention and connecting trails, and that would be maintained by the HOA.
So they're required to dedicate a minimum lawn space? Is that what we have there? Is that the absolute minimum?
It's like an acre.
Okay.
Yeah,
A little bit more than
again, we haven't done the technical review, but we'll do all that math when we get those technical review plans. And so I think you've probably done more work on this in the background that we haven't seen yet. So you would do the full dedication, is that what you're proposing to do?
Yeah, the full dedication.
And on occasion, the city, when it's not desirable to take a full land dedication, the city would take a part of that in the cash payment, and that cash payment is used to buy public lands or improve parks.
I think what they're asking about is where the tennis courts are and the skate park.
Exactly, none of that's gonna change, that's still gonna remain a city public park.
I think it's confusing because it's not on the map, so people think that
Yes.
that's disappearing.
No, I can confirm, they,
It's
Jeff
the bottom
Coe,
part of the hill, just as it goes up the hill, is where the property line ends.
People on the map.
and if you can pull up the map, I can try to point that out, but the map that they have on the presentation doesn't show the full Kingsmill Park. And I know with, well, actually, this is a good representation. So where is the property line somewhere?
See where that line of snow is running
So,
roughly
the white
right
snow,
across
yeah.
horizontally?
Because
That's
90 is
basically.
the time
Okay, so is this where you reach the property line?
Yeah, it's gonna be.
A little bit less.
I think it's right below
Or I
this.
guess it's.
It's right below this.
Yeah, it's-
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
Move
So-
that way. There you go.
So I'll let the applicant speak to this, but I think it's their goal to take their property and the land that they would dedicate to the city and make more of a seamless transition. Right now, it is kind of seamless. If you're out there on the site, you don't really know where the property line is, and that will continue. But if you go back to your site plan and maybe keep your eye on 90th Court there. So there's 90th Court, so it looks like the property line is, yeah, right about where that snow line is. And so this is the Jeffco property, potentially Cardell Homes property in the future. And you saw their plan for the public land dedicated park, which would just basically seamlessly integrate into the existing park.
I have a question for you. Is this the first offer that you considered on the school?
So good question, and it'll allow me an opportunity to kind of clarify what this situation is. So the city doesn't own the property. The property is currently owned by Jeffco Public Schools. Jeffco Public Schools some time ago went through a public process, were engaged, probably a lot of you in the room, I know I was in a couple of the meetings, and they had decided to ultimately dispose of the property, sell the property, for reasons that are theirs. And so they have opened the property up for sale. Cardell is an interested buyer. We're not privy to those transactions between Jeffco Public Schools and any potential buyers. So I couldn't tell you how many other buyers. Probably if Jeffco Public Schools probably has an open records policy just like the city does and like most municipalities do. I would assume you could contact Jeffco Public Schools and they could provide you with information on maybe the offers they've had or the interest that they've had. Who did you deal with? Maybe that would be a good answer.
Yeah, his name was Greg Advocate.
Do you know what department they're in? Do they have a real estate department? So short answer is, we don't have information on what other offers that Jeffco may have entertained in addition to Cardell.
He's with the operations and strategy department.
So if you go into the Jeffco Public School system and you go into the disposition updates, it will tell you where the school that has been zoned out to say that it is going to be sold or used for alternate purposes, where and who you can contact. That's all through there, and it's in the Jeffco Public School System website.
I think there's a total of like 16.
Yeah, you go into the disposition updates and it will give you that information. You can see where each school is at, where Zerger's at, and that information, and then it tells you who to contact.
And what, I have another question for you.
For me?
Yes.
Sorry.
What is the planning in the future where I'm 75 years old? And there's a lot of old people in the area. There's going to be a turnaround, you know that, as time goes on. And younger people, you know, they're going to end up moving into the area. They're going to have children. Where do you propose that they go to school, or are they going to be bused, or what are your plans for Westminster?
Well, we would partner with the school districts because we don't have control over their school planning. And so if there ever was a turn in population, like there could be, and cycles come and go, we would work with them to find locations for schools. But unfortunately, it's not something that Westminster plans for as a city because we don't control the schools and the demographics that come along with those. We have to trust that our school systems are planning appropriately for that.
Well, Westminster is part of Adams County.
Partially.
I grew up in Westminster. I went to school in Westminster. I walked to schools. My schools in Westminster, Zerger Elementary, Hodgkins, the old Westminster High School. My mom had the first beauty shop there. My kids, my twins, went to Zerger Elementary. And at that time, Jeffco's schools were better than Adams County schools. When I went to Adams County, they were good schools. Then one of the reasons we moved into the house that we live in is it had access to Zerger. They could walk there. They could go to Moore, which is closed, and Pomona High School. And a lot of these parents are working parents. So do you just put it on the parents? Or is there going to be busing, or how are things going to be handled?
Well, I don't know if you know,
It's
but
really
Colorado's
good.
a choice state. You can choice
Right.
your kid into anywhere. And that's what a
Or
lot of our
charter
neighborhood,
schools.
yeah, and a lot of our neighborhood
Yeah.
doesn't even go to our neighborhood schools.
Yeah.
I don't.
I'm sorry.
Well, I would just add a comment because unfortunately, I'm not in a real good position to answer a question related to school districts and school district planning. Only Jeff Cook could really answer your questions, but I do hear you. I'm a parent of school-age children. The lady hit on something that I think has affected our school districts, and that's school choice. I'm a parent of school choice kids, and we transport them a long way to get to the school that fits them the best, and I think a lot of parents are doing that. Yeah, but that is a factor.
So the gal in the purple sweatshirt.
Okay, so I have a question for Cardell, because you made it a point in your presentation to say that you tried to be part of the community, you tried to blend into the community, yet you're building homes that look nothing like the community. They're not on lots similar to the community, and they're way above the prices of what sells in our community. So how do you sell yourself as trying to be part of the community, but yet doing the opposite of what you're saying?
I think the best way to answer that is we're coming in with a 2-story single-family product. We're not rezoning for 3, 4, 5-story townhome product. We're trying to blend with a similar product. It's going to be new, it's going to feel different, it's going to have different roof lines, but it's not an attached townhome, which that could be rezoned for if somebody really wanted to do that.
Really, they spend more money on our square footage of our homes than they can on yours, then they can have bigger yards.
And that's a lifestyle, if people want that. But we're seeing a lot of people like the smaller lots just from a lifestyle standpoint, and affordability too with that. So.
I could take pictures out.
I have one more question, sorry, about like taxes and taxing districts. Like what is putting new homes in with HOAs and all of that going to do?
Is it gonna be a special tax, like a metro tax district?
So that is something that we've discussed with John and team. But I like to do a special district, and it's not for debt, it's more for an HOA purposes. So there's a benefit to that, so you can pay a mill levy or property tax to maintain that district and not charge a fee, so then you can write it off on your income taxes,
Have you
right?
talked about what that rate would be?
Oh, like 5 mills, and that would be only in our community.
Right, only in there. I mean,
Yeah.
I understand.
And I don't know if Westminster is open to that or not. We've had initial conversations, but I believe we're going to just convert to an HOA.
My question is for the community. Why don't we all band together and buy it? I'm serious. If we got enough people to get together to buy it, we could just leave it like it is and none of us would have to be here.
That's a lot of maintenance costs. There's,
No, I'll buy a riding lawnmower and all my.
Yeah.
So we're gonna go to the gentleman in the back, we're gonna come here, and then we've got this gentleman. So, we're working our way through. Thank you for being patient.
All right, one is, this was a planned community going way back into the 70s from where the city was developing, and they did a master plan, and they decided where the streets were gonna be, they decided where the schools were gonna be, they decided where the fire station was gonna be so that they could have good service, because response time is, they want it to be within 4 minutes. They figured out where the commercial buildings were going to be, the stores, the retail, office space. This was all planned clear back in the 70s. Now you guys are wanting to come in here, change this, and change the density, and take away open space. That just doesn't make any sense for this particular area. So that's that part of it. The second part is, what's the maximum height going to be on these houses? Because the houses that are on the due east of that property are going to be butted right up against those houses on that east side.
the product that we're anticipating building is 28 feet. Like I said earlier, I don't recall what the height limit is within the code, but the stuff that we are planning on building is 28 feet. And we can do a study. We can see what the shade study would do, what the visual to the mountains would do. I didn't recall seeing any mountains out there, but we can do a study to kind of.
That's all we do.
I was just curious, if you do the study and you find plutonium and you continue to build, are the people in the neighborhood going to be compensated for the plutonium you're digging up that we have to inhale?
I think if there's plutonium on a level that's going to be harmful to our residents, we will not be building a house there.
Yes, I would. Are you legally required to disclose that?
I don't know that
If
answer.
you find that?
Oh, to you guys, yeah, if we find plutonium and we're not going to build, we will hand it over to all you guys.
No, just if you find plutonium.
What's that?
Just if you find plutonium.
Yeah, it will be in our environmental report when we submit.
And all those documents they go into the public record.
Yeah.
Accessible.
Okay, so I'm gonna do the gentleman here, the gentleman in the purple shirt, and then the gal in the white sweater, and then we're coming this way.
That was to me?
Yes, please.
And I'm trying to remember what my question was.
Thank you for being patient.
Maybe go to somebody else.
Okay, go to the gentleman in the purple.
So my question was about how long we're gonna have disruption. And you said earlier that you're gonna sell 8 or 10 homes at a time. I just did the math. If you did that, you dig up, you get ready, that's gonna be months, and then you're gonna start selling. And so I could be, I'm one block over to the east. And I could have noise disruption and wind and dust and who knows, plutonium, maybe, maybe not, disruption for up to 5 years.
Yes.
And I asked that question why, because I bought a place in Rock Creek in Superior. We were the second house on the block, and we had almost 3 years when they built out where it was uncomfortable to sit out on my back deck and hear the hammering and hear everything else. And we bought air purifiers and had changed the filters regularly because we had all this dirt because they dug and they did all that stuff. And so am I to expect, if this goes through, that I'll have 4 or 5 years of that here?
Let me restate my statement earlier. I think our development to put the infrastructure in will take about 9 to 12 months, right?
So I got 9 to 12 months.
And then for us to build, I think we can sell probably 4 to 6 a month. And I said a year earlier. That was incorrect. I think it's 4 to 6 a month. So that's 8 to 10 months, right? So hopefully like 2 years is kind of the max that we're really disturbed.
So I only have to have 2 years of breathing the construction stuff. Do I get compensated? You're gonna pay for changing my filters? I have a lung problem, so if I get sick, are you gonna take care of that?
Nope.
I will
Just-
not personally, but no,
Okay.
the answer is no, I think this is just.
Yeah. So that's a disruption that
Understood.
could be fatal.
Understood. But
So, there are requirements for construction from the Colorado Department of Public Health that do govern, air quality, stormwater quality, all those things that happen during construction. And we're required to meet all these different code requirements during construction that are put out by the Colorado Department of Public Health to govern things like.
And how far away from the construction site? Is that, you got a big fan, a big vacuum? I don't understand. A huge air filter that purifies the air instead of giving me all the dust particles?
we're trying not to get the dust into the air.
Yeah,
So
they try to mitigate dust, but they use street sweepers and they water down the dirt to make sure it's not blowing away. And we have all sorts of control measures that we implement during the construction process.
Right, thank you.
So, excuse me, it's obvious that the infill project isn't going to blend in with the neighborhood, the surrounding. I mean, your site plan already proves that. So, I realize it's a numbers game for you guys, what you're building. So, my question is 40 homes the minimum that you can build in order to make this profitable for you? Or would you consider reducing the number of homes in order to appease the community and have your project blend in a little bit better?
That's something we'll look at, but I don't know off the top of my head what that number would be.
You guys, I know you put a lot of time in this. You've got to have an idea of the numbers. Like, you got to know what your baseline is coming into this when you're considering your purchase price, what you plan on doing, everything. You can't come here and say that you don't have a clue what the minimum amount of homes that you need to put there in order to make this a profitable project. So
Yeah, I think
could you reduce that number, still make your profit, make the neighborhood blend in a little bit better with the current surrounding neighborhood?
I think from a planning standpoint, there are multiple facets that we can and should look at based on this conversation. One of them is how many homes. One of them is, do you make a wider side setback so that when you're walking down the street, the houses' cadence is more similar. One of them is, there's lots of different things that we can look at to try to address the comments that we're hearing tonight. We just don't have a straight up answer because there's just not one singular solution, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
But you know what your financials are, though. You know what you're trying to make, you know what profit you're trying to make off of this. I mean, you do it for every single community. You go into it knowing on some level, and what I'm saying is, you have a dollar amount you're focused on.
Sure.
What are you, can you still make the profit and reduce the number of homes? Like, that's what I'm just saying, like, because clearly we're all not thrilled with 40 homes crammed on this tiny little spot. It's gonna look ridiculous. All infill neighborhoods always look ridiculous because they do the same thing. They cram a ton of homes in. And that's all I'm, like.
Yep, we hear you.
But no answer.
No answer, but we hear you. Thank you.
You had your hand up.
Thank you.
And are you also doing anything beyond phase one? Phase one is not test.
Very true, and I've already talked to our consultants.
Can you repeat
Oh, sorry, the question, she had two questions, two-part question. One is are we doing anything on the noise? And so I have a question for you. Do you mean during construction or do you mean long-term? And the second question from her was phase one environmental doesn't test for soils, so that's what we've got. Yes, I'm sorry.
So, yes, I have talked to our consultants about testing the soil, so that is something that we are going to do. We just haven't done it to this point. We did talk to the expert, which I pointed out earlier. Didn't think there was any harm there, but we will be testing the soils. And then noise, there are certain parameters that we have to abide by per Westminster code that we can't develop outside a certain hour, right? I don't know what that is.
And that's for long term as well?
Long term, I don't know how I don't know how to put restrictions on noise from a owner of a house. Obviously, it's the same thing that you guys have to deal with your neighbors, right?
Yeah, just the impact on the environment and species and everything involved with the neighborhood itself. So I'm just curious, it's just gonna create a lot of noise.
I hear your comment. I tend to disagree with you. It's 40 homes.
The gentleman back here in the blue shirt has had his hand up for a while.
Yeah, I'm one of the 6 properties on, I think it's the east side, on the right side. You know, that's gonna be most impacted by this. I think I live like right next to the school. And I'm really concerned that I won't be able to sell my house in the next few years, and I'm gonna have to just keep it on the books, and I won't be able to even rent it out because there's gonna be a bunch of construction. Like, I mean, can you guys provide any recourse to that? Or, I mean, how can those homes, those 6 homes be most compensated, you know, with this development?
I can just say from experience, I've been in the industry for quite a few years, I'm aging myself now, like 25 years. And I've done infill with this company and other companies. And Lowry is one that just comes to mind. And your questions are spot on. You guys are asking great questions, and we truly appreciate it. It might seem like it, but we are hearing you. So we had a situation, and also up in Midtown, which was mentioned, I think somebody that said that today. Older homes around that people lived in, and it was a big concern. I was selling on site at that point and had people come in daily asking. And I can tell you that those people, even middle of all the construction, so they were happy because their homes went up in value and they were selling very quick, because there are those people that don't want to wait to move. They don't maybe want new, they want to remodel, they want the big yard. So you have some value added that we're not going to have, that I don't have that crystal ball. If I did, our interest rates would still be at 3%. We'd all be happy and sell homes like crazy. But I don't have that, but my experience is you'll be okay.
How close will the backyard be to the fence of the ones on the east side? How much room will be between their fence
The rear
and the back of their house?
The rear setback, so the distance that we cannot build within is 20 feet.
Well, I mean, if you're attaching to the neighbor's backyard to build this house in front of theirs, how much room will there be? 3 feet, 5 feet, 10 feet from the back fence that they'll combine together to the back of their house?
So if this is the fence line that's shared, right, between the 2 properties, the existing and the new, we cannot be closer to that fence line than 20 feet. How close the existing home is could vary, because the code could have been different, or, you know, whatever the circumstance was when it was, the home was built. But the new home cannot be closer than 20 feet.
So they'll just have a backyard that's 20 feet before their house starts?
So building envelopes basically set how close to the property line you can build. So some houses might be a little bit closer to the front, some might be a little bit closer to the back. There is some variation there, so I'm not trying to dodge the question, I know exactly what you're asking, but at a minimum, they have to have 20 feet.
And we have about 10 minutes left.
Yep, so sir here, I see you, and sorry, the sir behind you, he was first, but I see you, and then we're going to the purple shirt and then we'll come.
Yeah, I remembered my question. This is actually for the city. So in terms of percentages of, let's say, quasi or quasi-public zoning, these infill lots that are happening, and just kind of how that fits into the master plan for the city overall, how does rezoning this property affect kind of how the city views rezoning of public, quasi-public space, its future use, anything like that? What's sort of the consideration that's taken in when we're talking about a very different use?
So when we use the term rezoning, that is a term of art, and the zoning is not going to change. So this will still be planned unit development zoning. What we're talking about is changing the comprehensive plan. Not to confuse everybody, but our comprehensive plan, unlike a lot of municipalities, is a regulatory document. Our code requires mandatory compliance with it. And so that's why the applicant is proposing to ask the city council if it'd be willing to change the comprehensive plan. The Zerger Elementary and this existing neighborhood predates any comprehensive plan that the city's had. So much of the city was developed when the city started employing a comprehensive plan, I want to say back in the mid-2000s, or late 1990s is when we had our first comprehensive plan. And now we've had 3 revisions to that comp plan, and we just have a new one adopted just within the last 2 years. And so existing sites that were public, quasi-public, they just retained that designation. So the school being existing before the comprehensive plan, the city just labeled it for what it was. It wasn't an intent to maintain that vision in perpetuity. And the comprehensive plan is a living document, and the city will amend it from time to time, but that is a decision for the city council. And so when this application comes forward, we'll have an cross-departmental analysis of that, the impacts. What are the impacts to our utilities? What are the impacts to transportation? Just from going from one color on the map to another color on the map. So I guess to try to answer your question is the vision may change with this application if the city council believes it's the right thing to do. Does that help?
Yeah, do you, and maybe you don't know this, but do you know about what percentage of these, change in use or amendment to the, original planning or anything are successful?
Well, some of you have mentioned Sheridan Green. And so Sheridan Green, unlike Zerger Elementary, had a reverter clause. And I think you all have heard this story before, so I won't spend a lot of time on it. But the city retained or received ownership of the Sheridan Green Elementary School when it closed. That's not the case here. Jeffco owns this property and kept ownership and is trying to sell it. The city was not a buyer for that. For Sheridan Green, the property automatically reverted back to the city, so the city had to take ownership from it. The city chose to, based on a robust public process, the city chose to remove the elementary school and expand the park and amenities in that area. And so that's because it was under city control and we could do that. So that's more of a story of how the city addressed a similar situation, but school closures are virtually unprecedented until recently. And so that's been a challenge for not only the school district, but obviously your neighborhoods, our community. And it wasn't something that I think any of us saw coming, except for maybe Jeffco Public Schools saw it coming a little further in advance than we did.
Do you know why the city of Westminster is not interested?
I don't. I really don't. I can only assume that if any discussions were had with Jeffco, of course I wouldn't have been privy to them, but if any discussions were had with city leadership and Jeffco, the city probably looked at its priorities and its financial portfolio and the cost benefit from doing that, and I assume this was not something the city agreed to purchase.
Sir, the paper brochure.
I heard you say 800,000, 850,000, somewhere in that range. What about affordable housing?
We will not be having any affordable housing.
All right, thank you.
Sir?
Sure. I was poking around online and I saw that there are 3,000 homes in this neighborhood already. I just don't see that 40 homes is a drastic change. And additionally, like he mentioned the price, I think that shows just how badly people want these. I couldn't afford one. Wow, someone must really want this home. And so, it's changed. And I think I'm okay with that.
Thanks for your comment.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask.
Couple more questions and then we have
I was
to
gonna
wrap it
ask
up.
the city manager, how much control does he have, how much control does the city have over what is put in this? Oh, that's
Well, the easy answer is 100%. So right now, with the current land use designation, Carvel cannot build the development plan they want. They're asking the city council to change the comprehensive plan, which would open the door for them to pursue these other applications. So Jeffco has no say over land use in the city. Once they sell the property.
So to piggyback off of her question, if the city were to veto it or say no, like if not this, then what?
That's a very good question. Since the city doesn't own the property, it's under private ownership. And I assume if the city council chose not to agree to this comprehensive plan change, then Cardell may not pursue the, I mean, I can't speak for you, but if you want to address that.
No, I think that's fair, but I want to go back to your question, like who will they sell it to? They'll sell it to someone. I mean, they can't hold on to this school any longer.
Right, so then my question to the city manager is if they say no to houses, what would they say yes to? Because while none of us want this, I'm just gonna throw it out there, it could be worse? Question mark?
I think it does.
First of all, let me clarify, I'm not the city manager, but I am the planning manager. I know, the city manager is the, you know, basically head of staff, so I don't want to pretend to be the city manager. But I'm sorry, what was your question? I got sidetracked.
So if the city says no to this,
Yeah.
and they say no to houses, and Jeffco is still gonna sell the school, there's just not enough kids. That's a foregone conclusion, right? So if not houses, then what? What would the city approve?
That's a
is my
good question. I think the city council will give good consideration to this, recognizing that the density, again, we haven't reviewed the plan, but it's somewhat similar to what's out there in a modern version of that. If they didn't agree to this, it's hard to imagine that they would leave it public, quasi-public. That would force Jeffco into trying to find a buyer that I don't know, maybe a hospital or a medical facility, a church or something like that. And so I think the city council probably would put that in the balance of their thought process. But I want to be careful to say that you know, it is a city council decision. Staff will make recommendations based on our areas of expertise. The city council's got the final decision, and I would never pretend to estimate what the city council would do in this. The city council does listen to its community. I've seen it time and time again. And so your voice matters, and your voice will be heard by our city council when they consider this.
All right, so we have just a comment, like if you could put an overlay of your plan on the existing area map and have that as part of what's on the city side, I think it would be really very helpful.
I think that, yes, that we need to zoom out our map a little bit for better context. I think that that's a really great
And that's
point.
something we can send you guys.
Yep.
So we have your email addresses.
So I've got, we're at time, and I have 3 hands left.
Post it on the, give it to the city so it's something you can access.
I can hand it over to
So
Carson.
I've got 3 hands left. I've got the lady in the back in the white coat, this gentleman here, and this gentleman in the back, and then we're at time.
On your 28-foot height limit, is that at the top of the base of the house or the peak of the roof?
It's at the peak of the roof.
That is amazing if it's that short. I'll be surprised.
Yeah.
Sir?
Is that me?
Oh,
Yeah, so, I guess this is kind of an open question for both the city and y'all. Is it possible for the city to purchase the school from Jeffco?
It is possible. That's something the city council will have to consider and choose to do. I'm not sure that the city has had that conversation. I imagine if the city was interested in purchasing it, the city would engage Jeffco before now.
Well, we're going to a meeting, and then we
Jeffco? And I'll just add that there is some reality to that. In converting Sheridan Green to a park, there's great expense to tear down that school, that those were public dollars. Expense to redo the site as a park, and then the ongoing maintenance. That was, again, a situation where the city didn't have a choice in receiving the property. The reverter clause deeded it back to the city, and the city had to do something with it. So, but there were costs involved.
Sir?
Mike, very quick, you are aware that this is not an HOA area?
I am aware of that, but I think for us to regulate what needs to happen on our site, we need an HOA. You will not be part of that HOA, but Dave.
I know they have enough problems with HOA.
I-
There's a lot of stuff in the legislature right now. We have never had one.
That's why I want to convert it to a special district, but that's for a future discussion.
All right, final question.
Okay, this might take you in, John, but,
You're gonna get your steps in tonight.
get your steps in. As far as that site plan, to make sure it meets more of what's compatible with the neighborhood, how many lots would go on there if they were compatible to the size of lots that are already existing? Because you're looking at, you want 40,
That's a
and
lot.
you've got them narrowed up. So if you went with normal size lots to the neighborhood, how many can you put in there?
I don't recall what that answer was.
I don't wanna
Sorry,
answer.
yeah. I'm sorry, I don't recall what that is.
I
Last question.
have one question. How are you guys gonna maintain that street coming in from Wadsworth and coming in from 88th? Right now, we have motorcycle guys zipping around Wadsworth and everything. We hear them all through the night. How are you gonna stop, and who's gonna repair all the streets to accommodate all of those people? Plus, how many of those people are gonna have more than one dog? That's a lot of stuff.
That sounds like an existing problem.
No, it's not.
City council.
Trying to joke with
Well,
you.
thank you guys for coming tonight.
Trying to joke
Please
with you.
email us with any questions.
I'm not in a
We're here to
joking
talk.
mood.
No, I agree.
Thank you.
I just want to say now,